Board of Education regular meeting. It is Monday, January 11th.
2021 is 7 p.m. The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to all members of the public. Would you now stand with me and pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm trying to go slow because Erin is on her way. You think we can go ahead and swear the board meeting?
Yep.
Okay, board members.
Okay, so tonight being the initial meeting, first meeting of the year with new elections taking place, or elections taking place and new officers being elected and some being reinstated, we open the meeting with the oath of office for the members who, our new member, Mr. Eric Book, and our re-elected members, Lisa Pieper and Doris Martin. No, excuse me, Janet Byers. I'm sorry. I looked at you and I said I was looking at Doris. So
I'm not so sure you want to get that wrong.
oh yeah, if you'll join me at the front, we will swear you in. Okay.
All right, so if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Eric Book,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation,
That I take this
obligation freely and without mental reservation
or for purpose of evasion,
or for purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of the School Board of School District Number 15 of Beatrice, Nebraska,
that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of the School Board of School District 15 of Beatrice, Nebraska,
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate,
And I do further swear that I do not advocate,
nor am I a member of any political organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States,
nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
or of this state by force or violence.
or of this state by force or violence,
And that during such time as I am in this position,
and that during such time as I am in this
position,
I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party
I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party
or organization that advocates for the overthrow of the government of the United States
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
or of this body by force or by this state by force or violence.
or of this state by force or violence.
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, welcome Eric and welcome Erin. Next up, we're going to have the reorganization of the Board of Education. We'll start off with the election of officers. And then we will move on to the committee appointments. Okay. I will now turn it over to Mr. Alexander.
Okay, so at this time, every year, as by statute, the board has to reorganize itself and elect officers. So I will open the floor to accept nominations for the election of the president of Beatrice Public Schools Board of Education for the 2021-22 school year. I will accept nominations at this time.
I nominate John Zimmerman.
I have a nomination for John Zimmerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a nomination and a second for the president of the Beatrice Public Schools Board of Education 21-22 school year to be John Zimmerman. Are there any other nominations at this time? Hearing none, I have a motion for John Zimmerman and a second to serve as Board of Education President for Beatrice Public Schools for the 2021-22 school year. I will accept the nomination to cease. I accept the motion to cease nominations and a unanimous ballot be cast for John Zimmerman to serve in this role. Do I hear a motion for a unanimous ballot?
I so move.
I have a unanimous ballot cast. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for a unanimous ballot to be cast for for John Zimmerman, to serve in the role of the Board of Education President for 21-22 school year. We will, at this time, take a roll call vote. Eric Trustee.
Aye.
Eric Book.
Aye.
Lisa Zimmerman.
Lisa Pieper.
Lisa Pieper.
Yes.
Sorry. John Zimmerman.
Aye.
Doris Martin.
Aye.
Janet Byers.
Yes.
Aaron Chapman.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. All have voted. Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Zimmerman, congratulations. You're elected board president for the 21-22 school year. You can now take over the meeting.
All right, thank you, everyone. Next up, we have Vice President. Do I hear a motion, or a nomination, excuse me?
I would like to nominate Doris Martin for the position of Vice President of the Board.
I have a motion to nominate Doris. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Eric? Do I have any more nominations for Vice President? All right, seeing that I have none, nominations will cease. And I'll have a roll call vote. Start on the other side.
Yes.
Aaron? Janet?
Yes.
Doris?
Yes.
John, yes. Lisa?
Yes.
Eric?
Yay.
Eric?
Yes.
All right. Doris Martin has been nominated and voted as Vice President of the Board. Next up, we have Secretary. And I move that Jackie Nielsen has the pleasure of being Secretary of the Board of Education. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janet. All right. Eric Trustee.
Yes.
Eric Book.
Aye.
Lisa.
Yes.
John, I. Doris.
Yes.
Janet. Aaron.
Yes.
All right. Congratulations, Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you, Danielle, for taking notes.
And I suppose I'll let somebody else make a motion for treasurer of Jason Alexander being appointed. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that Jason Alexander be appointed as treasurer of the Board of Education contingent upon his ability to be bonded.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Eric. All right. Aaron.
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Doris.
Yes?
John, yes.
Yes.
Lisa, Eric.
Yes.
And Eric.
Yes.
Congratulations, Jason. Just what you wanted. All right. Now at this point, we move on to committees. What we had last year was Janet, Aaron, and Eric. And did you guys meet last year?
We met in
Once.
January. I kind of miss not meeting. It's hard not to be in the schools.
Well, one thing I always like to encourage is new board members to get on the school and community. That way they can meet teachers and they get to meet you and everything. Unfortunately, in these times, we never know when we can get together, so.
We'll bring donuts when we can meet again.
So, was there anyone who wished to remain or be new to the School of Community and Staff Relations Committee?
I will stay on that committee.
Would you like to remain as chair?
That's fine. I'd like to stay on that committee as well.
Was there anyone else who wished to?
I would like to be on that committee.
Okay. All right, I have my 3 positions filled. Next up, we have the 2021 Americanism Committee. Last year, we had Doris, Lisa, and Steve. Doris was the chair. Was there anyone who wished to be on that this year?
I'll stay on.
As will I.
I can replace Steve since
Okay.
Eric B replaced me on the community and staff relations.
Was anyone wishing to be chair?
I will.
Anyone want to fight her for it? All right, thank you very much. Doris will be chair of that committee. Negotiations for 22-23. Last year was Janet Byers, Doris Martin, and John Zimmerman. Was there anyone who wished to be on that for the coming year?
I'll stay on.
Did anyone else wish to be on the negotiations committee? Then John Zimmerman will round out the negotiations committee. And Janet, would you like to remain as chair? You did a very good job, so thank you very much. All right, now we have the NASB legislative delegate. I'm going to miss Steve's reports each month. Was there anyone who likes to take a shot at legislative listening?
Typically, what the legislative delegate does is report to the NASB Friday morning breakfast and that's held in the fall, and listens list all the legislative stances of the Nebraska Association of School Boards prior to the session starting. And then that delegate basically just, once they have a grasp of all those positions, will report back to the board. And if there's any positions that that delegate or the Board of Education for Beatrice specifically disagrees with, and they'll talk to that legislation during that breakfast session. So that's typically kind of the role of the legislative delegate. And we could even expand that more if we needed to include somebody to be more active role in the legislation that takes place that we're kind of just getting started right now in the unicameral. So that's just kind of an update as to what that position entails.
And one thing about it is, as you said, a Friday luncheon. Where are those at?
Well, typically they're at the State School Board Conference that Friday.
Oh.
It's the breakfast that Friday morning. So
Didn't Steve meet at other times? Or?
he did come to a couple of stance meetings with us, which also fits into the legislative delegate position. So if that opportunity or that necessity arises, we'd ask that person to attend as well.
So really, all this entails is one morning of your time at the state meeting, and you get to sit and vote for the board. Well, since I always go, we'll throw my name in there. All right, Government Relations Network Representative. We've had Doris Martin in there for the past year.
That's fine.
Anyone else care to do that? Or? All right, Doris, thank you very much. Okay, that will round out the committees. Now we are on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the consent agenda as presented, including approval of the agenda, approval of minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on December 14th, 2020, approval of the proposed accounts for payment, approval of budgetary receipts and expenditures for December 2020, approval of option students, approval of the resignation of Terry Breathauer, Director of Buildings and Grounds, and Pam Burgess, Elementary Librarian.
All right, I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, Jason, did you have something you wish to add?
A couple of items to note on in terms of the consent agenda. One, first, a quick treasurer's report. December represents a good time to give a little bit more detail in terms of the budget cycle, because we're 1/4 of the way through the budget cycle, the 2020-2021 budget cycle. So at this time, I'll just give a quick overview. Our general fund monthly overview for the month of December. Expenditures, bills totaled $287,422.75. Salaries and benefits, $1,699,424.50, which brings our total expenditures to $1,986,847.25. In terms of revenue, the district received $1,676,981. It's always important when reflecting from one year back to the next that, or in looking at where we are, we compare that to December 2019 just to see where we are. So in the general fund balance, that's kind of our gauge or our barometer of where we are now in comparison to where we were a year ago. And it all for the coming year, but in comparison to 2019, the general fund balance was $6,176,000 or $60.55. In December 2020, the general fund balance is $6,883,252.01. So you can see that our general fund has gone up, and that's good news. But keep in mind, NDE and accounting recommendations are 4 months of average expenses be available for cash on hand for solidification of your business, whatever that business is. And so, given this recommendation of figures, that means we're in better shape than we were a year ago at this time. That's good news. But it doesn't mean we don't have continued work to do in terms of our budget, because we're still about $1.9 million short of having that safety net, so to speak, of 4 months of expenses on hand in case something would happen. So that's just kind of a recommended rule of thumb. But all in all, the budget's in good shape, and we're right at where we should be, with approximately, at this point, almost 33% expended. We're at 31.82. So we haven't expended what amount we should. If we were exactly trying to target 1/4 of the way through the budget cycle, we're just a little bit under that, so that's a good sign, knowing that we have 3/4 of the budget cycle to go.
Jason, do we expect to receive any of the CARES funding from the state that's been talked about, and would we qualify for any of that?
That's a great question. You're going to say me part of my superintendent report.
Well, that's fine. We can wait till then, too.
That's okay. I'll answer it now because it applies. We have sent in a reimbursement request for the initial. There's CARES 1 funding that was an initial part of the initial CARES Act that took place last year. We were entitled to $347,000 of that, so we have submitted our reimbursement. We just heard back today that they finalized that, so should be coming anytime.
So what qualified us for?
Well, a certain percentage of, it's based off your Title I enrollment percentage.
So the state determines that then?
Exactly.
It's not based off loss of expenses or revenue or anything like that?
No, it's all calculated according to your Title I percentage that you receive district-wide. So now, the next round, which we've all heard about, the next stimulus is what's called CARES 2 funding. And so in that round, we've been told that based on that same percentage is what they're going to base it off of, that we're in line to receive $1.2 million of funding for the expenses related to the COVID virus. So that is still not determined. It's early, but we also know there's a shorter window of opportunity that the government's going to have to disperse those monies. So how that all transpires in the next several months, we'll be tracking that very closely.
Good, thanks.
Yep. That's it.
Anybody else have any comments or questions for Jason?
Oh, wait, I do have one more thing. I'm sorry. You notice that Terry Bretthauer's retirement/resignation is on the agenda tonight, along with Pam Burgess, and those are two individuals that we just want to highly commend and recognize and show our appreciation for the years of service they've put in here at Beatrice Public Schools. I've only had the privilege of the past 3 years of working with Terry and Pam, and I work probably more closely with Terry than I do Pam, but I can say these are two very high-quality individuals that our district is going to miss, and as they start the next chapter of their lives, we wish them well. I don't know what we're going to do without Terry around to say, hey Terry, I need this, or hey Terry, I need that. And he always steps up to the plate and things are done the way we need to. And so to both of those individuals, congratulations. Terry, we wish you well, but don't run too far, and give us your phone number before you walk out the last day, would you? All right.
If there's no more comments or questions for Jason, I have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved with 7 votes. Next up, we have outstanding recognition. Dr. Nielsen, you have Employee of the Month.
Yes. I am going to ask Mr. Timmy Cleveland and Mr. Scott Hardy to come up to the front. I don't think they know why they are here, but we would like to recognize both of them as our Employee of the Month for January. They are two integral components, two integral pieces to ensuring Beatrice Public Schools continues to move forward. Kenny and Scott are constantly on the move, helping around the district in many different ways. Throughout the year, many different projects arise which require our maintenance crew to assist. Both Kenny and Scott are always willing to lend a helping hand. We do realize that they are probably beginning to run, and have been running, when they receive calls from the district office, maybe our blast office as well, because we always have some new project running through our minds. During the pandemic, we've needed additional staff to help out, especially in the area of custodial services. When help was needed at Beatrice Community Preschool, Scott Party was headed over there to wax the floors, clean the bathrooms, and take out the trash. After a resignation at Stoddard Elementary, Kenny was happy to fill in to make sure that the building was maintained until we found a replacement. When help was needed at the high school to hang up senior banners because they were short custodians, Kenny and Scott showed up to help complete the job, which made the seniors very happy. Both employees are appreciated very much for their hard work and willingness to help. Both have stepped up during this time when staffing has been reduced because of COVID or because of resignations. We would like to congratulate Mr. Kenny Cleveland and Mr. Scott Party as the January Employee of the Month. Sorry, we'll dance a little.
Well deserved, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I can get back to my picture. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Kenny, thank you. Appreciate the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Next up, we have Business Friend of the Month, Mr. Alexander.
Okay, for those of you that are new to the board meeting tonight, this past August, we made it a point that we're so fortunate in our community to have business friends that support our students, our staff, and our school throughout the course of the year and the years previous, and I'm sure they will continue in the years forward. We're so thankful to have so many community businesses that do that for us. And it doesn't matter if we ask them or if we just speak a need, they're always there to help us. And so each month, we've taken on the responsibility of recognizing one of those businesses per month and saying, just taking a moment to say thank you to them for all that they do in supporting our students and what we do for our students. So this month, our Business Friend of the Month is a business who has been there when the House of Orange was built, was there when we needed a new gym floor, has been there for three-point contests, or excuse me, three-point shots at our basketball games and supported financially contributions to that. They're a business that's been there with everything that we've done, with the new digital media video board that went into the gym. They were one of the first ones to step up and say, yes, we'll help sponsor that because it'll bring something nice to the community. It'll also be something cool for our kids to see as well. This business is always there, whether we ask or whether they just want to call and contribute. They do that often too. And we're very thankful and blessed to have their patronage and their support with all that we do for kids. Last year, when COVID-19 hit and we weren't sure what we were going to do with graduation, this business called and said, whatever we can do to help you, we will be glad to do. At that point, we hadn't decided yet that we were going to hold graduation outside with a big stage and have a company come in and help us telecast it and do everything we did. But with the financial support of that business, we were able to do it. So we just want to take a moment and say thank you to Pinnacle Bank. And because Lisa's here tonight, we will ask her to take this to the bank and express our appreciation of their support of our students and our school.
Next up, we have the information portion of our meeting. And first, Colt Dibrenner will have the student update.
Hi. Okay, since we just got back to school, the report's pretty short, but every one of the students is pretty glad to be back. I mean, we enjoyed the break, don't get us wrong, but it's nice to be back in school. The wrestling team has had a very successful year so far, and this Saturday they won the Beatrice home invite. The girls wrestling team has also been doing very well, and I'm pretty sure they have 3 girls, and I know 2 of them have been getting medals at pretty much everything they went to. The basketball teams have had a very impressive season so far between the Lady O and the Orangemen. The speech team recently started competing, and we had a girl get 2nd place at the Fairbury invite. At the middle school, girls basketball and wrestling started last week, and not much to report there since we just started last week. And then the preschool has 19 new students this semester, and they start enrollment this Friday for the 2021-22 school year. And that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Cole. Did anybody have any comments or questions for Cole? All right. Next up, the audit report. We have Ryan Bruins here.
I assume everybody has a copy of the report in front of them or has seen it. Okay? So what I'm going to do tonight is go through this fairly quickly and at a high level. But if anybody has any questions as I'm going through this, just feel free to stop me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions as they come up. What you're going to find on pages 1 through 3 is the independent auditor's report. The paragraph titles explain and give some definitions as far as what's contained in those paragraphs. Probably the most important one is found at the top of page 2. That's the opinion paragraph, in which we indicate that based on our opinion, the financial statements are they're unmodified, which is the best opinion that we can give. That the statements themselves are free from material misstatement. The rest of the report kind of describes some other supplementary information that's required to be contained within these footnotes since it's a governmental audit report. Getting into the numbers part, the financial statements are on pages 4 through 10. There's 3, kind of 3.5 statements there. The first one you're going to see is called the Statement of Activities and Net Position. And it's kind of a hybrid report. It's really, it's kind of an income statement at the top, balance sheet at the bottom a little bit. And so what you're going to see is the first column is disbursements by function for the year. And then as you work across from left to right, you're going to see offsetting either revenues or collections to give you the net expenditure per function. And as we work down that schedule, you're going to come across the general receipts that the district collected during the year to get us to a net fund balance position at the end of the year. And I think that the net change in fund balance for the district this year was a positive $652,000. So all in all, a pretty good year. At the bottom of that page, it also breaks out the amount of cash held in the bank and the amount of cash held at the county treasurer that is yet to be remitted to the district. The second statement is called a Statement of Receipts, Disbursements, and Changes in Fund Balance. This is it's a statement that gives us more detail for each individual fund maintained by the district. The net change in fund balance reflects the increases and decreases for the year, also including transfers among funds. One of the last statements is the Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Fund Balance. Again, this is broken out by fund, and this kind of is more of a balance sheet type perspective of each and every fund maintained by the district. And when I say there's 3.5 statements, the last one is found on page 10. It's the Statement of Fiduciary Funds, which are really funds held by the district but are assigned to or allocated to outside parties. And so that's where the activities funds come in. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here as we go on. Then we get to the notes for the financial statements. There have been no new changes as far as additional disclosures or anything related that would be required to be disclosed in the footnotes. Note 1, this is a definitional type footnote where it describes what is a qualified capital purpose fund. Note 4 gives some detail regarding the long-term debt payment schedules and thereof on the bond issues that the district has entered into. We got a leasing schedule on note 5. Notes 6 and 7 are common to all schools, and there's really nothing unique contained in those 2 footnotes. Note 8 talks about the we'll just say interfund transfers, the moving money from one fund to another. I think the biggest figure there was some money moved to the activities fund during last fiscal year. And note 9 talks about new accounting standards that are coming down the road. And that brings me back to that statement of fiduciary funds. That GASB 84 was actually put on hold, so the district didn't have to implement that standard. But what's going to happen this next year is that the fiduciary funds are going to be required to be treated just like any other fund. So we're going to show collections in and disbursements out. So that will be a change for next year's report. Working our way to pages 25 through 48, that's the supplementary information, again, required by governmental accounting standards. It's going to give us information regarding the schedule of federal expenditures, of federal awards, and that's something that's required due to the fact that the district has expended more than $750,000 of federal funds. And on our end, really what that means is we look at certain programs that those funds are allocated to and do additional testing on those programs. The other important thing related to those statements are, this is where you will find the budget to actual statements for each fund, so you will be able to see what the approved budget was for each fund and compare that to actual expenditures for the fiscal year. 49 and 50 are required reports in accordance with GASB. We found a significant deficiency in internal control. That's not real alarming. We find that in almost every audit that we do, not just school district, almost every audit. And really what that boils down to is the fact that governmental auditing standards would express that entities should be able to draft their financial statements themselves. And in reality, nobody does that. That's where we come in. So it's a very common finding. It's something similar to segregation of duties. I mean, those 2 things are the most common findings we ever come across in our auditing procedures. So I don't think there's anything real significant there. Just a required note within that report. Page 51 and 52 is a report specifically related to the federal awards programs. You can see that our opinion there was unmodified, so without any material weaknesses. So those programs, based on our procedures, are free from material statement also. Schedule of findings and question costs can be found on pages 53 through 56. Like I mentioned, a significant deficiency in internal control regarding the preparation of the statements. Let's see here, going back to the major programs on the federal award side, we're required to cover 40% of federal expenditures of federal awards. So really what that meant is this year we looked at the Title I program and the nutrition cluster. So those are the 2 federal programs that we looked at specifically this year. That's what I have in a nutshell. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do you anticipate that
return to, I mean, this year we had to do a lot of electronic exchange of records. Do you anticipate that'll remain in the coming years, or we'll go back to more on-site audit?
I think there's a part of that's out of anyone's control. So I would say, you know, for all practical purposes, we start, you know, working with schools middle September, you know, through November. I would like to think by then it would be back to normal, but I don't know. It was a unique circumstance for all districts, for us, and we actually started the remote auditing process back in March of last year. So, I mean, it was something that we were, you know, borderline accustomed to, but it's certainly not ideal given the time crunch that school districts are under. So, I would say I would like it to be, you know, back to normal, but I don't know.
I think we would agree with you. We enjoy having you
Yeah.
come here and be able to have that interaction more so than having to do it electronically.
Jackie probably appreciates it too. More than that.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have any comments or questions?
I know that's a quick overview, but it's kind of important that you have a chance to hear from the auditors, what they found, what they reported. Ryan, we appreciate you being the year that it was, appreciate how you handled it with us and the working relationship, so look forward to that in the future as well.
Thank you. The firm appreciates it also.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Next up, we have the board reports, and we have the stance report, Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, so Stance has officially, we had our first meeting, I think, in late November or mid-November, but now we've met a couple times. Day one of the 107th legislative session is underway. It's a 90-day session. Took place last Wednesday as 49 senators were sworn in and by the Chief Justice to begin the day. The final day of the 107th legislature will be on June 10th, so it is a long session, 90-day session. Senator Mike Hilgers of Lincoln was elected to serve as the Speaker of the legislature, and probably the news of the legislature that encompasses us the most is the change on the Education Committee. As the new chair for the next 2 years will be Senator Lynn Walls of Fremont, who won a close vote over Senator Mike Groney of North Platte. Senator Walls comes to us as a former teacher, former school board member, so she has sat in your chairs, and we are excited to have someone that understands and appreciates education in that chair position. So that's an update on committee. Legislation is expected to be proposed this session that we'll be looking at. Two big items around retirement. First of all, the OSERS plan, or the Omaha Schools Plan, will be reviewed and possibly revamped to be placed into the NPERS, or Nebraska Public Employee Retirement System Plan. But the big one, the big ticket item that is especially interesting for Mr. Brett Howard sitting out in the audience is the possible relaxation of the 180-day rule by the NPERS. Currently, once a person retires, they have to sit out 180 days before they can come back and pursue any type of job with the district.
Does that include substitute teaching, for example?
That does include substitute teaching. Once you've reached that vested stage, you cannot substitute for 180 days.
So basically a school year.
Right.
No, you can substitute, it's that you can't do long-term kind of things. There's a limit, I mean, you can't. Well, let's just not go there, because I did it, so.
Yeah. These days you'd have been in trouble. So, but in all seriousness, I say that because it just dawned on me that here we are talking about Terry retiring, and typically he would have to sit out 180 days before he could come back. Well, now, if this law changes, then we can drag Terry back anytime we want to. So we'll wait and see where that goes. That's just discussionary at this point. We don't know any of the details, but that is an interesting piece for us because it does
our substitute teacher capacity, if those rules are relaxed, we'll be able to tap into more people that would be interested in substituting that have retired at a sooner pace than previously.
I
So,
think that was spurred by COVID, that relaxation.
you know, I don't know, it could be. I mean,
It's interesting.
we really haven't heard many of the details, but it could be because of the shortage that we're all in. The other thing that, as of now, the hearings are slated to be allowed with minimum capacities in rooms that they'll be held in. And of course, proper PPE will be required if there's testimony allowed at a hearing. Other than that, the main form of testimony is going to be through letters that are written by boards of education. So when we have legislation that's important, we'll be calling on you to write letters to either support or dispute that legislation. So that's just kind of a quick stance update in terms of what we met on last time we met.
I have a quick question on the Omaha Public Schools. That's their pension that they got into a lot of trouble with, is that correct?
Correct.
And we probably would not be supporting that?
You know, we'll have to see what it entails.
Okay.
But
Weren't there tons of articles on that last year in Omaha World Herald?
yeah, basically the retirement fund was mishandled and misappropriated.
Right. And now they're short of funds and trying to make up those funds
Correct.
by piggybacking on the members
Yep.
program.
Yep.
Are there any other districts in the state that manage their own retirement?
No.
That's what I thought.
It was a long-standing situation where Omaha managed their own, and there was some slight mismanagement at one point during it, and now they're kind of paying the price. And I think the common theme is that the unicameral wants to see it managed with the NPERS fund because there's more regulation around it than what there currently is with the OSERS fund. So it makes a little bit of sense, but we'll see what the details are as it starts to gain ground. That's it.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, we'll move on to the COVID vaccination plan. Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, we've been discussing the details surrounding the COVID vaccination dissemination with Beatrice Community Hospital and Public Health Solutions. We know some of the basic information, and it seems like every week when we meet with our incident command team, we find out a little more information about how things are going. There are two basic injections, as most of you know, an initial dose and a secondary injection, which has to occur exactly or as close to a month later as possible in terms of getting the vaccination. We were asked by the Nebraska National Guard before Christmas to get a count of how many of our staff members would be interested in that so they could then prepare those dosage amounts and have them ready to go. So that's all in the works. We hear that the actual injection is very painless and easy to administer. The caregivers giving the vaccine are required to keep the people getting the vaccination in close proximity for up to 15 minutes after receiving it for basic observation purposes. So once the injection's given, our staff members will have to basically sit idle for 15 minutes for observation purposes before they're released. We are meeting tomorrow as an administrative team to start developing more details about how we will disseminate the vaccine to our people in our buildings who have indicated they're interested in receiving it, and that we'll start coordinating that tomorrow and then working with Beatrice Community Hospital to get that organized. We have some initial thoughts as to the best way to do that, so we'll put all those together and give you an update in February. We're hoping that in the first week of February, we could possibly see the first round of vaccinations take place. We were told today that it would be either the first to mid of February when we can get those first vaccinations in place. So, just a quick update.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, we have the public forum citizens request comments related to agenda items. This was, normally I read off a little one or two sentence comments before doing that, but because of some questions that were raised on how we do this, I had Jason contact the attorney for me. So now I have 2 paragraphs I have to read. So remind me next time to keep my mouth shut. He says, we are now at that portion of our agenda set aside for public comment on any item that is on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Each person shall be allowed to address the board 1 time. Per board policy 8340, each person will be allowed up to 5 minutes to speak. Please remember that this is a public school meeting where public business is conducted. This is not an open dialogue with board members. Such a dialogue could violate the Open Meetings Act. In any addition, offensive language, personal attacks, and hostile conduct will not be tolerated. Any person who engages in a disorderly manner will be requested to leave until the meeting is adjourned. As a reminder to board members of the Board of Education, the time reserved for public comment is a point in the meeting where the board receives public comment. Public comment is not a time for the board to engage in an open discussion or debate. To prevent a potential violation of the Open Meetings Act, board members should not respond to any person making public comments. A discussion during a board meeting about an item not listed on the agenda may constitute a violation of the Open Meetings Act, subjecting the board to potential penalties. Therefore, to the extent that there is a topic discussed during public comment that a board member wishes to discuss during a board meeting, the board member should request that the board president add such a topic to future board agenda. Finally, members of the public should not feel disrespected or unheard when members of the board do not respond to public comments. Do I read that every time?
No.
Oh,
You can read it as many times as you like.
okay.
No.
So, now we have the opportunity for anyone wishing to speak to approach the desk and give their name and address, and then you have your 5 minutes.
I'm gonna go first. My 8-month-old is home with a cold, so. My name is Sabrina Glenn, and I first off want to apologize. I never got your email sent back. I got really busy with the sick kiddo, so I did get it. Thank you. And I want to thank the rest of you for allowing me to speak today. I am a mom to 6, all who have attended Beatrice High School or are currently attending, and then one who will hopefully attend at some point. I'm here today to discuss with you the mask situation that is within our school district. I have attempted to speak to Mr. Alexander about this multiple times, and every time we talk, I can't seem to ever get a straight answer. It's always, I won't have a kid die on my watch. And every time I respond, that isn't your job to prevent entirely. Let me explain. I run a daycare, and there's an actual daycare provider in town who has lost a child to SIDS while in her care. We can do the best that we can do, but sometimes you can't prevent everything. Mr. Alexander and his staff unfortunately cannot dictate what children do and who they're around after school. I had to literally pause the live stream of the York game the other day because I saw that they had a student section at their basketball game, something that Beatrice is not allowing right now, and I don't understand why. These kids can be in school all day, but not in a gym for 90 minutes together. Sure, the kids had their masks on, but they weren't even every other bench like what was required at the football games, and York had even allowed 8 family members per participant. So my biggest issue with all of this, quite honestly, is that I feel that Mr. Alexander and Dr. Nielsen lied to us. We had a June 23rd meeting, a parent meeting at the high school, which we were told that they would not require masks, that they did not want our children wearing masks. And many of us parents honestly left happy because of what we had heard, because there were quite a few families looking to go to private schools, my family included. So I have here the FAQ from the school website, and I want to read a section of it to you. This comes directly from the school page, and it says, will students be required to wear masks? Students will be required to wear masks during the day to slow the spread of transmission and to keep the school open. Although parents may opt their children out of wearing a mask by signing an opt-out form when the district is in Tier 2, if the district moves to Tier 3, all students will be required to wear masks. All patrons need to understand if a student tests positive in a class, students who are not wearing a mask may be asked to quarantine for 14 days if they have had contact with the individual being tested or tested positive. And if students are wearing masks, that they may not have to quarantine and they may be asked to self-monitor. So given what the school had posted, any parent who read that would have read that the only way that their children would need masks if they had the opt-out form signed was if we went to Tier 3. But see, Tier 3 makes more work for the school. When I asked there, after the meeting, I went up front and I spoke to Mr. Alexander, Dr. Nelson, and I asked, what's the likelihood when we get to Tier 3 that we're going to Tier 4? And in their words, it would shortly follow. Those were their words, not mine. And that was also proven in the slideshow that they presented during that parent meeting. It also states in the FAQ from the school that face shields could be used, and those are no longer being allowed from what I've heard either. I know Nora told me, my 8-year-old, that she cannot wear it in her classroom. So I guess that I'm absolutely frustrated. I'm feeling like there's an own agenda in this and that we can just change the rules whenever we feel like it. And I'm literally sitting here trying to teach my 6 kids that their word is everything. That when you speak, you choose your words really wisely and you own them. Given the research that I've done, I emailed all of you except Eric. I did not get your email yet. So you all have an email that shows that masks are ineffective. There's tons of articles in there that I tagged. You can click on the link. I think there's like 30-some articles, journals, studies. It'll also show that kids, in fact, are not our super spreaders. They're quite honestly usually asymptomatic. And asymptomatics are not being our super spreaders right now either. So then I know that I'm going to hear about our teachers. Well, what about our teachers? I'd like to point out that I know a lot of people in the community, and I know that a lot of our teachers have had COVID-19 already. I don't know the exact number. That would be a question for the staff at Beatrice High School. But the recent studies are showing that immunity is lasting up to years for those who have had COVID-19 in the past. They should have the antibody for it. They should be okay. They'll be okay. So I'm going to leave you with some stats to think about. So as of yesterday, there were 8 deaths in the city of Beatrice due to COVID-19. They were all 60 and older. There's 14 deaths total in our county. That's 21,513 people, according to 2019 data. That's less than 0.001%. It was just updated to 18 this morning. The extra 4 were not from the city of Beatrice. They were from the county.
Time.
Can I finish with a few of them? Okay. January 4th through January of 2020 through January 2nd of 2021 is the time frame for the others. There's been 105 COVID-19 deaths in the United States from infant to age 14, which is less than 0.5%. In 2018, there were 117 people killed in school bus-related accidents, so keep that in mind. And there's been 599 COVID-19 deaths in the United States from infant to age 24, which is less than 1% of all the deaths. And all of that I actually got from the CDC website, if you'd like to look. So I guess what I'm asking is for your help. The school needs to honor these opt-out forms. It was listed on the website. It wasn't shown that we were going to change our mind. I'm not the only parent who feels this way. I actually had people who were going to come tonight, called off the wolves. I said, let's do this the right way. But I will say that this afternoon on the way home from Lincoln, I did call a school board member to ask if either the teachers or staff had shown any support or opposition in regards to the masks of our children. Only to find out that apparently today there was a letter sent with signatures from staff members. If those teachers are really in favor of the required masks for our healthy children, I would be more than happy to send each and every one of them the same thing that I sent you. It is absolutely ineffective to expect our children to wear a medical device for 7 hours a day. And I really hope and pray, because I do have respect for you, Mr. Alexander, that letter didn't start because of the email that I sent you last week. That's all I have. If you guys would like any of these statistics, you can message me back through my email, and I will gladly forward you on where I got this information as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Was there anyone else who would like to? Oh, please come up to the desk and state your name and address.
My name is Ashley Mason, and it's 1300 Lincoln Street here in Beatrice. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. This district is required to teach science by state law. Science is meant to be questioned and repeatedly tested, not blindly accepted. In the words of Richard Feynman, I'd rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. By forcing students to wear a mask, you are in fact going against the very methods that are being taught in our schools. Are you comfortable teaching students to go against that scientific method? If you are in favor of this contradiction, how can you be here today and call yourselves examples to these students? You have been sold a lie by many scientists, the lie that masks are effective. Masks have not been scientifically proven to help. Rather, they worsen the lives of those forced to wear them. We do not mask healthy children, nor do we restrict healthy children. Local public officials continue to say that the majority agrees in regard to the necessity of this mandate, yet the only people I've seen actively pushing for the forced wearing of masks are the major influencers in this community. Those same groups with adjacent political philosophies, alongside people handpicked by our city officials. But the people, the everyday citizens, are not backing this. Yes, some people are complying right now because they hope in the leaders of our community have their best intentions in mind. They believe our leaders will remove this mandate when the case numbers drop to what they claim is the safest amount. However, as more and more people are recognizing the lies and harmful side effects brought on by forced masking, the more they will reject your mandate in favor of their own health and safety. There has been a record number, 54 new families who have chosen to homeschool their children since July of 2020 in the Beatrice community. They have made this choice because of the outrageous requirements that the Beatrice School Board have enforced with medical devices on their children. That breaks down to just over 2 families a week choosing to leave this district. This is far more than the 13 diagnosed with COVID in the same amount of time. I called board members to get that number. The statistic makes it clear how ludicrous your policy is. Each week, more families are choosing to remove their children from your district, not because they are concerned about a virus, but because their children are experiencing negative side effects from the medical device you are forcing them to wear. This is evident in the number of children who are inevitably sent home from school because of headaches, stress, and anxiety caused by wearing masks. The belief that this will go away with a vaccine is misinformed. The science isn't settled on the safety or effectiveness of the current available vaccines. Our current law allows for exemptions. Why? Because exemptions are needed when medical devices and medical procedures are in place. Just as the federal, state, and city laws allow for exemptions of a mask, they absolutely allow them on school students as well. Every board member who chooses to vote in favor of children being forced to wear a medical mask is choosing to take that child's individual medical needs into their own hands. That is a violation of state law. Your decisions are violating each child's First and Fourth Amendment rights, along with Nebraska Law 20-134. These choices are not based on science, but on fear. Your example in making an overbearing choice is a violation of your oath, an oath that 3 of you took today, as board members and contrary to the scientific method that our school district is teaching our children. Are you willing to continue defiling these students' rights protected by Supremacy Clause 2, Article 6, because of your fears? Sorry, lost my spot. If your desire is for forced mask, you must bring it up at the state level before attempting to enforce it at the local school level.
1 minute.
The city-appointed health board became aware of their similar mistake when they passed ordinance 20-002. It originally had no exemptions, and when the state attorney general informed them that it was unlawful, they were required to change the mandate. It is only a matter of time before the state comes down on this district for violating the rights of these students. It is time to end this. The parents and students of Beatrice are demanding that this unjust policy is removed. They aren't concerned about a virus. This school board is making it quite clear that it has never been about a virus. Because of your choices, more families will continue to exercise their lawful right to homeschool their children. They will enjoy the freedom of no longer living underneath your medical dictatorship. Taking into account that none of you are medically qualified or state licensed to make these medical decisions for over 2,000 students, I strongly encourage you each to vote on the removal of mask mandates on Beatrice students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you very much. Was there anyone else who would like to? No, please.
My name is Dave Henning. I'm an employee of the Beatrice Schools at the high school, and I live at 31127 South 80th Road. So I was excited to hear about the scientific method because I'm a science teacher. And I guess I'll just start by saying, as a teacher, I don't really expect my students to blindly adhere to rules or regulations day one. We spend time developing procedures and rules that we can all live with. But the fact is, at some point, rules do have to be established and rules have to be put in place. And some people are going to agree with all of those rules, and some people are going to agree with some of those rules, and some of the people in our classroom community are going to agree with very few of those rules. But the fact remains that if people don't follow the rules, if my students don't follow the rules, we can't have an effective classroom. And the same thing's true in our society. We have rules and regulations and procedures put in place, like this board, for instance, that makes rules for our school community. And there's other elected bodies that make rules and regulations. And the problem is that if we have elected boards and we have these procedures, and in the end, they have to make rules. And one of those rules that's in place right now in our district, in this building, and in our city is that we should all be wearing masks. That's a rule, and that's a regulation. And the problem is that when a small group of people choose to just completely ignore these regulations, it's very difficult to continue on to have a functional board, a functional school district, a functional society. It's really, not that much different than the kid in class who decides that they can talk all the time, no matter what, because they want to. Masks, there is a mask mandate in the district right now. There's a mask mandate in this building right now. There's a mask mandate in this city right now. And we have a small group of people who are very vocal that believe that masks are somehow anti-American or they're against their civil liberties. But the truth is, no matter what people want to say, no matter how many links, how many websites, how many studies you want to cite, the truth is that that masks work. And that every government around the world, every institution of higher learning in this country, every reputable medical professional agrees that masks are the cheapest, so they're the most accessible, and the most effective way that we have whilst having the least amount of inconvenience and the least amount of shutdown of our economy. This is the best thing we have to continue on to school, to continue on with our economy, to continue on with our society. Without these masks in a classroom, we can't really follow the social distancing rules in a classroom of 24 people. But the masks allow us to be in school, and these masks are scientifically proven through many studies that did follow the scientific method and have data and have been published in peer-reviewed journals, just like I teach in my high school science class, to be effective, the most effective thing that we have. And so I think, the science can't be argued, really, in good faith. Masks help, and they ultimately will save lives, and they do save lives. Some people might ask, well, how many? Only 4 people have died. Only 18 people have died. Boy, that seems calloused to me. If I have to wear a piece of fabric across my mouth in order to protect other people's lives, that is something that I am more than willing to do. And I think most of our students, honestly, are more than willing to do that too. In our building during the day, we have very little pushback from students. They wear their masks. We might have to remind them occasionally to put them up, but they don't argue with us. They wear them. We're all learning. We're in a community together where we're learning, and it's not a distraction. It's really hard for me to understand if just wearing a piece of fabric across our face can help stem the spread of this disease that's killed over 300,000 Americans and many, many more than that worldwide, why we wouldn't. It just seems selfish. Public health, which this is obviously a public health issue, is just not something that we should leave up to opinion or politics. There's a difference between There's a difference between not vaccinating your child and having your child come to school without a mask. When kids come to school without a mask, the masks really are the most effective at stopping droplet spreading. And so by certain kids not having masks on, it gets close to defeating the purpose of having the mask at all. It takes everyone working together as a community, just like in a classroom. In order to have effective learning community, everyone has to work together, even on things they don't necessarily agree with. Because without that, it just falls apart. And so I would urge the board, as they move ahead, to look at the scientific data, and the data clearly shows that masks work, and they work best when everyone is wearing them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? All right, that concludes our public forum portion. Next up, we have the discussion. Board member coverage, Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, so this year is a unique year in a lot of ways. One of the ways is that through Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska, we have the Educators Health Alliance that is in charge of designing and producing an insurance plan for all schools across the state that choose to enroll in it. This year, Blue Cross Blue Shield changed a lot of its plans, and because of that, it's prudent to discuss whether or not board members would like to enroll in that coverage or not. So, because Nebraska board members are such an integral piece of public schools, the public school system, and their role in the fundamental success of the school, Blue Cross Blue Shield allows Nebraska Board of Education members to enroll in the plans offered by the schools. With the change in Blue Cross Blue Shield plans this year, and new board members coming on to the Board of Education, I thought it was a prudent time to discuss and determine the district's stance on allowing board members to apply for Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance coverage. However, there's a couple of key factors. If the district plans to allow board members to enroll, it should be in policy. So there is a policy provided in your materials for your review. Tonight is just discussion on this item. The details surrounding how that process works of board members enrolling is also from Blue Cross Blue Shield in your packet of information provided for you. It is allowable. There are other schools that do it, just so you know, and it's perfectly legitimate. Just for the audience's purposes, any board member that chooses to enroll in the Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance program gets all the benefits of that Educators Health Alliance network. However, they just have to pay for the premium that's afforded to them. So if the board member's interested in it, it's just a simple matter of every month paying that premium to the school district to be allowed to participate in the Blue Cross Blue Shield Educators Health Alliance network. Any questions about that? So tonight's not a decision-making point on that matter. We'll have it as an agenda item at the next meeting in February. But I did want to provide you with a sample policy and also with the information as to how that all works and give you a chance to decide whether or not you're interested as a board.
Any comments or questions for Jason?
Given to any person who is either quarantined or tested positive for the coronavirus. Current regulations have not been updated. So it expired at the end of December, and the government has said that each public entity has the ability to extend that if they so choose, as to whatever means they so choose to do so. In speaking with a lot of area schools that are in the same position we are, it's a common belief that
something new could get passed once we have new presidential administration. We don't know that. We won't know that for a while. But with that said, many are planning on continuing the FFCRA leave with some stipulations in place. And so some are handling it a little bit different than others, but pretty much the allotment of the 80 hours or 10 days would continue in place with any use time from the initial application of the FCRA days being extended to March 31st, 2021. And any days or hours that have been previously used by employees would be deducted. So essentially, what I'm recommending to you in an effort to try and continue the plan for those that have not had the coronavirus, and for specifics, you'd want to know that 57 of 345 staff members have been positive cases, so 16%, I'll repeat that, 16% of our entire staff has had COVID. We still have a great majority, 84%, that have not. So, in order to treat them fairly and apply the rules, I would say that it's in our best interest to extend that 10 days and grant them that opportunity. And it is possible, we also have two members of our staff who were positive in the first semester and are subsequently positive this semester already. So it is likely that they can contract the virus again. How that happens, I don't know. I'm not in charge of the testing. I'm not a medical doctor, but I do know that it has happened to two of our staff members already. So it just makes logical sense that we extend that 10 days, but subtract off any days that have been used in the first semester and then allow those days to be applied in the second semester likewise. So that's kind of what the proposal.
Why did you pick March 31st? I mean, would it make sense to extend it through the end of the school year at least?
Good question.
Just, again, with more of that equity in case, somebody would test positive later on this semester.
Currently, that's the date in the federal statute at this point at which the expiration will be final.
Unless that changes,
Unless that changes, right. Correct. So that's what, at this point, I would just say until March 31st, or until we find out otherwise by the federal government, we continue with the 10 days. We use the same forms that have been provided to us. We treat it the same. The only exception, the only difference is that any days that have been used in the first half of the year get deducted from those available days, and then the employee is expected to use their sick leave.
Any other comments or questions for Jason? All right, you had nothing else on that?
Nope.
Okay, we'll move on to the action portion of the meeting. Can I have a motion for 9.1?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve Jason Alexander as the district's federal grant representative and financial representative.
I have a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Aaron. All right. Can I have your votes, please? That is approved with 7 yea votes. Can I have a motion for 9.2?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 name the following as the depository banks for Beatrice Public Schools: Pinnacle Bank, Security First Bank, First National Bank of Omaha, Beatrice Branch, and Bank of the West.
I have a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Eric. All right, can I have your votes, please? I have one abstain and 6 yes votes. That passes. Can I have a motion for 9.3?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approves the 2018-19 financial audit as presented.
That should be,
correct?
No, it should be 2019-20.
Okay.
Just a typo there, sorry.
So approve the 2019-20 financial audit as presented.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janet. Can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved with 7 yea votes. Good. Can I have a motion for 9.4?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approves the 2021-22 negotiated agreement with the Beatrice Education Association pending acceptance by the BEA membership.
Which we did receive notification today that it had been approved.
All right, I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janet. All right, can I have your votes, please? And that is approved with 7 votes. All right, we are moving on to the administrator's report section. Superintendent report, Mr. Alexander.
We'd already talked about the CARES funding, which was one of the items that I wanted to talk to you about, and then just give you a quick update on the middle school assistant principal position that we have advertised for. We advertised for roughly about 3 weeks overall. Application period closed yesterday, January 10th. We had 22 total applications. 3 more were submitted yesterday, late afternoon. So we feel very fortunate. We've had a good response to the position that's open. Some things that we've done so far, we've met 3 times to sort through the applications at this point, which are, again, I will reiterate, very good applications. For the first time that I know of in school history, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've decided to conduct pre-screening questions because of the quality of applicants that we have. We want to make sure we do a thorough job. We are going to start tomorrow with Zoom meetings. Mr. Hakey has gone through and lined up Zoom meetings for the rest of the week, where we will have about 7 to 8 pre-screening questions we will be discussing with those candidates. And then from those Zoom meetings, we will then narrow down the field to be lining up interviews as early as next week or the week after. Of course, that all depends on everybody's schedules, the candidate schedules and so forth, when we can get them in for a full-fledged interview. So again, just to highlight, 22 total applications in a 3-week time period. We know that there were also 10 other middle school principal jobs out there, or 10 other principal jobs in the state at the same time we were advertising. So we feel fortunate that we have a good pool of candidates to choose from. We'll keep you up to date as to how that progresses in the coming weeks. And then the only other thing I had for administrative report was the CARES funding, which we talked about earlier.
All right, do we have any questions or comments for Jason? Hearing none. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be February 8th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the Administration Building. The Committee of the Whole meeting will be January 28th, 2021 at 6 p.m. in the Administration Building. An agenda for the meeting, which shall be kept continually current, is readily available for public inspection at the Superintendent's office during normal business hours. I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Very quickly. Can I have your votes, please? And we are adjourned.